My name is Naomi, and I am 24 years old from Portland. Growing up as the oldest of 3 children, I always felt like something was off about how household responsibilities were divided in our family. While my younger brother and sister seemed to float through childhood carefree, I became the family workhorse by default. The weight of unfair expectations followed me for years until one dinner conversation changed everything. What my parents dismissed as me being too sensitive became the final straw that led me to pack my bags that very night. Let me know where you are watching from, and hit that like and subscribe button as I share how I finally broke free from years of family inequality. I grew up in a typical middle-class suburban neighborhood in Portland with my parents Lisa and Michael, and my younger siblings Jack and Amelia. Jack is 2 years younger than me now, 22, and Amelia is 5 years younger, currently 19. Our house was spacious, but required constant maintenance with its 4 bedrooms, large backyard, and detailed landscaping my father insisted upon maintaining. My earliest memories of helping around the house go back to when I was just 6 years old. While Jack and Amelia played with neighborhood kids or watched cartoons, I would be helping Mom fold laundry or set the table for dinner. Whenever I asked why my siblings did not have to help, my parents would say the same thing: "You are the oldest, Naomi. You need to set a good example." At that young age, I accepted this explanation without question. I was a naturally diligent child who wanted nothing more than to please my parents. I took pride in being called responsible and mature for my age. I would beam with pride when my mother would tell her friends, "I do not know what I would do without my little helper." Those words felt like warm hugs validating my place in the family. My grandmother Margaret, my father's mother, was the first person to notice the imbalance. She lived about an hour away and visited us monthly. During one visit when I was about 8, she found me cleaning the guest bathroom while Jack and Amelia were playing video games in the living room. "Why are you scrubbing toilets while your brother and sister are having fun?" she asked, her forehead wrinkled with concern. "Mom says I need to help because I am older," I replied, not looking up from my work. Grandma Margaret frowned but said nothing more to me. Later, I overheard her discussing it with my parents, her voice unusually stern. "You are putting too much on Naomi. She is just a child herself." My mother dismissed her concerns. "You do not understand our dynamic. Naomi is just naturally more responsible." The first clear memory I have of Jack actively avoiding chores was when he turned 10. Mom had asked him to take out the trash, a simple task that would take less than 5 minutes. Instead of doing it, he whined, dragged his feet, and eventually forgot, until Dad ended up doing it himself. "Boys will be boys." Dad chuckled, ruffling Jack's hair as he passed by with the garbage bag. I watched from the kitchen where I was loading the dishwasher after already cleaning up the dinner table. The unfairness stung, but I had already learned to swallow my objections. Sunday cleaning days were particularly revealing of our family's imbalanced dynamics. One Sunday, when I was 12 and Jack was 10, he got invited to a friend's house. Despite it being our designated family cleaning day, my parents let him go without hesitation. "Jack, make sure you are back by dinner," Mom said as he rushed out the door. "What about his room?" I asked, already knowing I would hear the answer I dreaded. "Can you just quickly tidy it up?" "It will not take long," Mom replied, not meeting my eyes. "You are so much better at organizing anyway." That day, I cleaned not only my room, but also Jack's, which was significantly messier, with clothes piled on every surface and snack wrappers tucked between books and gaming equipment. My resentment grew, but the pattern was already too established to break. By the time I entered middle school, Amelia had also learned that household responsibilities were optional for everyone except me. While I was expected to maintain straight A's, participate in extracurricular activities, and manage a growing list of household duties, Amelia at 7 years old was developing the same skilled avoidance tactics Jack had perfected. "Naomi, can you help Amelia clean her room?" became a regular request, which really meant, "Naomi, can you clean Amelia's room while she watches?" Whenever I voiced my frustration, the response was always some variation of, "You are just better at it," or "It will be faster if you just do it yourself." These dismissals taught me that speaking up changed nothing, so gradually I stopped trying. Through these early years, the foundation was being laid for a family dynamic that would follow me well into adulthood. My parents consistently reinforced that my siblings' time and freedom were valued more than mine. What started as small inequalities in childhood was growing into something that would eventually threaten to crush my spirit completely. As I entered high school, the burden of household responsibilities only increased. My typical day started at 5:30 in the morning. I would wake up, make my bed, and head downstairs to prepare breakfast for everyone. By the time my siblings dragged themselves out of bed, their plates would be waiting, and I would already be dressed and organizing backpacks by the door. After school, while Jack went to soccer practice and Amelia had dance lessons, I would rush home to start dinner preparations and tackle the day's cleaning tasks. My mother worked as a real estate agent with unpredictable hours, and my father's accounting job often kept him at the office until late. Somehow, their busy schedules became my responsibility to manage at home. A detailed accounting of chores would have shown about 80% falling on my shoulders. I cleaned bathrooms, vacuumed common areas, did most of the laundry, coordinated grocery lists, and often cooked several dinners per week by the time I was 16. Jack occasionally mowed the lawn if repeatedly reminded, and Amelia's only consistent responsibility was feeding the family cat, a task she frequently forgot. Despite the workload, I discovered a passion for photography during my sophomore year. The school's art club became my sanctuary, a place where I could express myself and temporarily escape the endless responsibilities waiting at home. I saved up for months from my weekend babysitting job to buy a secondhand DSLR camera, carefully hiding away $5 and $10 bills until I had enough. The day of an important art club exhibition where my photography would be displayed for the first time, my mother called with an emergency. Guests were coming for dinner. She was running late at a house showing, and nothing was prepared. Despite explaining the importance of the exhibition, I was told, "Family comes first, Naomi. Your father and I need you right now." I missed seeing people's reactions to my photographs while I marinated chicken and prepared a salad for my parents' impromptu dinner party. Jack and Amelia both attended their respective friends' houses that evening, completely exempt from the family emergency. By this point, my siblings had developed almost professional-level skills at avoiding housework. Jack's strategy was to do chores so poorly that he would never be asked again. When he loaded the dishwasher, dishes came out still dirty. When he did laundry, colors bled into whites. After a few disasters, my mother threw up her hands and declared, "Just let Naomi handle it." Amelia preferred the procrastination approach, promising to do things later until someone else just did it instead. If directly confronted, she would burst into tears, claiming we were being mean to her. This emotional manipulation worked particularly well on our father, who could not stand to see his little princess upset. During my junior year, I attempted to have a serious conversation with my mother about the unfair distribution of household labor. "Mom, I do not think it is fair that I have so many more responsibilities than Jack and Amelia," I said carefully one evening while helping her fold laundry, another task that had somehow become exclusively mine. She barely looked up from the towel she was folding. "Naomi, you are just naturally more responsible. You have always been my right hand. Jack and Amelia just are not built the same way." "But how will they learn to take care of themselves if they never have to do anything?" I pressed. "They will figure it out when they need to," she said dismissively. "Besides, girls are just better at household things. Your father certainly never learned." That comment revealed so much about why our family functioned the way it did. My father, despite being a functional adult with a successful career, barely knew how to operate the washing machine. He expected his dinner on the table and his clothes cleaned without ever considering how these things happened. My mother, despite her frustrations with him, was reproducing the exact same dynamic with Jack. Thanksgiving my senior year stands out as particularly illustrative of our family's imbalance. While I spent 2 days cooking alongside my mother, preparing everything from the turkey to the pumpkin pies, Jack and Amelia remained glued to their video games in the basement. When I asked my father if he could make them help, he looked genuinely puzzled. "They will just get in the way," he said. "You and your mother have a system. Besides, the kitchen is really women's territory." I caught my grandmother's eye across the room, and she shook her head in silent understanding. Later, she cornered my parents in the living room, her voice low but intense. You are turning Naomi into a household servant while raising two incapable adults. How is that preparing any of them for real life? My parents nodded politely, but made no changes. Their pattern was too comfortable, too convenient for them to disrupt. The unfair distribution of labor took its toll on more than just my free time. My friendships suffered as I frequently canceled plans to handle family responsibilities. My high school experience lacked many of the carefree moments my peers enjoyed. While they went to football games and weekend parties, I was often at home managing what felt like an adult's workload. My only escape plan became college. I applied to schools with a singular focus distance from home. The farther away, the better. When acceptance letters started arriving in the spring of my senior year, I felt the first real hope I had experienced in years. Freedom was within reach just a few months away. What I did not yet understand was that escaping physically would be only the first step in a much longer journey toward true independence. The day my acceptance letter arrived from State University, located 200 miles from Portland, I felt a surge of exhilaration I had never experienced before. The campus had an excellent photography program, but more importantly, it was far enough from home that I could not be expected to commute back for family emergencies. "I am so proud of you," my mother said, hugging me while looking at the acceptance letter. "But we are really going to miss your help around here." That statement confirmed what I had long suspected: I was valued as much for my utility as for my personhood. Still, I smiled and thanked her, already counting down the days until August. Moving into my freshman dorm was like stepping into an alternate universe. My roommate Sarah was from Seattle, friendly but independent, and most importantly had normal expectations about shared living spaces. We drafted a simple chore chart for our room, dividing responsibilities equally. The first time she thanked me for cleaning our shared bathroom, I nearly cried. Being appreciated for work rather than having it taken for granted was a new experience. Beyond the equitable division of chores, college offered freedom I had never known. I joined the university newspaper as a photographer, made friends who respected my time and boundaries, and discovered who I was outside of my role as family caretaker. For the first time, my schedule was determined by my priorities, not by everyone else's needs. That did not mean home let go of me entirely. My phone frequently lit up with texts from my mother. "The dishwasher is making a strange noise. What did you usually do when this happened? Where did you keep the extra vacuum bags? Jack has an interview tomorrow and needs his blue shirt ironed. Can you tell me how to get the wrinkles out without burning it?" These messages revealed how little self-sufficiency existed in my absence. My siblings, now 20 and 17, apparently had not magically developed the skills my parents assured me they would figure out when needed. My first holiday break freshman year was an alarming reality check. I arrived home after finals to find the house in a state of near chaos. Laundry was piled in corners. The kitchen sink overflowed with dishes, and a fine layer of dust covered most surfaces. My mother greeted me with a hug and handed me a list, not even trying to disguise her expectations. "I thought we could get the house back in shape before Christmas," she said cheerfully, as though we were in this together, despite the evidence that no one had attempted basic maintenance in weeks. During that 2-week break, I tried to teach Jack and Amelia some fundamental household skills. I showed Jack how to separate laundry and operate the washing machine. I demonstrated to Amelia how to properly clean a bathroom. Both seemed mildly interested, but my parents undermined these efforts at every turn. "Let them enjoy their break," my father said when he found me showing Jack how to iron his own shirts. "There will be plenty of time for that later." "Amelia has so much homework to catch up on," my mother interjected when I suggested my sister help with dinner preparation. "You are so much quicker at it anyway." Returning to campus after that break brought a mix of relief and new perspectives. Conversations with friends about their family dynamics made me increasingly aware of how abnormal my situation was. Sarah described how her brothers had specific chores from an early age and how her parents enforced these expectations equally. Another friend talked about how her family rotated cooking responsibilities, with everyone taking turns, including her father. These stories highlighted the distortion in my family's system in ways I had not fully recognized before. It was not just unfair, it was actively harmful both to me and, ironically, to my siblings who were entering adulthood without basic self-care skills. During sophomore year, I began seeing a campus therapist after a particularly stressful call with my mother left me having a panic attack in my dorm room. Dr. Jenkins helped me understand concepts like parentification, the process where children are inappropriately given adult responsibilities, and familial role assignment, where family members are locked into specific functions that serve the system rather than the individual. "You have been assigned the role of the capable caretaker," she explained during one session, "and your siblings have been assigned the roles of those who need taking care of. These are not reflections of your actual capabilities, but constructs that maintain your family's homeostasis." This framework helped me make sense of why simple conversations about chore distribution had never worked. It was not just about the tasks themselves, but about deeply entrenched family roles that would face significant resistance to change. With Dr. Jenkins' guidance, I began the slow work of establishing boundaries. I shortened my visits home, limiting them to major holidays, despite the guilt trips this decision triggered. I stopped responding to texts asking for household advice, referring my mother to YouTube tutorials instead. Each small act of self-protection felt simultaneously liberating and terrifying. After 4 years of growth, independence, and healing, graduation loomed with a new challenge. The economy had taken a downturn, and entry-level jobs in photography were scarce. Despite applying to positions across the country, I faced the reality that I might need to move back home temporarily while building my career. The thought filled me with dread, but my savings would only cover about 2 months of independent living. After much internal struggle and lengthy discussions with Dr. Jenkins, I made the difficult decision to return to Portland after graduation with clear boundaries and an exit strategy in place. "Things will be different now," my mother assured me over the phone. "You are an adult returning as our guest, not as our helper." My father added, "We have talked to Jack and Amelia. Everyone will do their fair share while you are here." I wanted to believe them, but the knot in my stomach suggested otherwise. The drive back to Portland after graduation felt like moving backward in time. 4 years of growth and independence condensed into uncertainty as I watched familiar landmarks appear on the horizon. I had secured an apartment viewing for the following week, but until then, my childhood bedroom awaited, preserved like a museum exhibit to a person I no longer was. "Welcome home, honey." My mother embraced me in the driveway, eyeing the modest stack of boxes in my car. "Is this all you brought? Where is the rest of your stuff?" "This is it," I replied, already feeling the subtle pressure to explain my choices. I donated a lot before moving out of the apartment. My bedroom remained unchanged, down to the high school photography trophies lining my bookshelf. I carefully unpacked, arranging my adult possessions in this time capsule space, and tried to ignore the sinking feeling that accompanied being back under my parents' roof. The first week maintained a fragile illusion of changed dynamics. My mother made dinners without asking for help. Jack, now 22 and working part-time at a local electronics store, cleared his own dishes. Amelia, about to start her freshman year of college, stayed mostly in her room, absorbed in social media, but did her own laundry once. By day 8, the familiar patterns re-emerged like weeds through concrete. I came downstairs one morning to find my mother struggling with breakfast preparation, while simultaneously trying to organize papers for a house showing. "Naomi, could you just finish the pancakes? You know how Jack likes them slightly undercooked in the middle." That simple request opened the floodgates. By week 2, I was back to preparing most family meals, cleaning common areas, and handling the grocery shopping, all while spending hours daily on my job search. The guest status I had been promised evaporated without discussion. Jack's contribution to household management remained minimal. He worked 25 hours weekly at the electronics store, which became his blanket excuse for domestic abdication. "I am exhausted from dealing with customers all day," he would say, sinking into the couch with his phone while I prepared dinner after spending 8 hours submitting job applications. Amelia had refined her avoidance techniques to an art form. Her focus on college applications and maintaining her social media presence apparently left no time for loading a dishwasher or wiping down a countertop. She spent hours creating elaborate makeup tutorials for her growing Instagram following, but could not spare 5 minutes to take out the trash. Amelia needs to focus on her future right now, my mother explained when I pointed out this discrepancy. College applications are so competitive these days. The irony that I had managed to maintain a 3.8 GPA while handling similar household responsibilities was apparently lost on everyone. After 3 weeks of intensive searching, I landed a position as a photography assistant at a local studio specializing in commercial product photography. The salary was modest, but represented a foot in the door of my chosen industry. More importantly, it offered consistent hours that would allow me to save for my own place. Rather than celebrating this achievement, my parents immediately zeroed in on how my schedule would impact household management. "So you will be home by 6 most days?" my mother asked after my announcement. "That should work fine for dinner preparation if you do some advance prep in the mornings." My father added, "We may need to adjust the laundry schedule. Maybe you can do a couple loads on Sunday instead of spreading them throughout the week." I felt invisible as a person visible only as a function. Their primary concern was not my career development, but how my employment would affect their comfort. Still, I swallowed my frustration and focused on the financial independence this job would eventually provide. The following 3 months established a grueling routine. I would wake at 5 to prepare for my 8:30 to 5:30 workday, often handling breakfast preparation and a quick tidying before leaving. After 9 hours of assisting photo shoots, managing equipment, and learning editing software, I would return home to cook dinner, clean up, and manage whatever household crisis had developed during my absence. My health began showing the strain. I developed persistent headaches, had trouble sleeping, and lost weight from regularly skipping meals to accommodate household tasks. The freedom and self-care practices I had cultivated during college eroded under the relentless demands of my family's expectations. My college friends noticed the change during our video calls. Sarah, now working in Seattle as a graphic designer, expressed concern about the shadows under my eyes. "This is exactly why you worked so hard to get away," she reminded me during one late-night call. "You know my spare room is available if you need to get out of there." My grandmother, always my most perceptive ally, visited and immediately recognized the situation. "You look exhausted, dear," she said quietly while helping me fold laundry, in act of solidarity rather than expectation. "This arrangement is not sustainable." She was right, of course. I had been carefully setting aside 30% of each paycheck, building an escape fund that would cover first and last month's rent, plus basic furnishings. According to my calculations, I needed 2 more months of saving before I could comfortably move out. The physical and emotional toll of living at home again forced me to reevaluate this timeline. Perhaps I could find a roommate situation that would reduce initial costs. Maybe I could sell some photography prints online for additional income. The desperation for escape grew more acute with each passing day. The true breaking point built gradually, but shattered suddenly like ice that has been silently cracking beneath the surface, before giving way all at once. It centered around a family dinner ostensibly to celebrate my first 3 months at the photography studio. "We should have a nice family meal this weekend," my mother announced on Wednesday evening. "Dad will grill steaks on Saturday. We can invite Grandma too." What went unspoken but clearly understood was who would handle every aspect of this celebration beyond the actual grilling of meat. By Saturday morning, I found myself shopping for ingredients, cleaning the dining room that no one had used in weeks, and preparing side dishes, while my siblings enjoyed their weekend activities uninterrupted. That evening, as I arranged a table setting that would have impressed a restaurant manager, the weight of 24 years of unfair expectations crystallized into a clarity I had never before experienced. Something had to change, and it would not be my family's behavior. The only variable I could control was my participation in this dysfunctional system. Saturday evening arrived with the golden late summer light filtering through freshly cleaned windows that I had spent the morning wiping down. The dining room gleamed with polished silverware and the good china reserved for special occasions. The aroma of roasted vegetables, garlic mashed potatoes, and homemade rolls filled the house. My father stood proudly by the grill on the back deck, occasionally flipping steaks while sipping his beer, his only contribution to the meal preparation. My grandmother arrived first, giving me a knowing look as she surveyed the elaborate spread. "You have outdone yourself," she said quietly, helping me arrange the salad I had just finished tossing. Her tone carried an unspoken question about who else had contributed to this feast. Jack emerged from his room when called hair still damp from the shower he had taken while I was setting the table. Amelia floated in wearing a new outfit, immediately taking photos of the table setting for her Instagram before sitting down. My mother bustled in from changing out of her work clothes, making a show of carrying the water pitcher, as though this single act balanced the hours I had spent cooking. "Everything looks wonderful," she announced to the table, generally avoiding specific acknowledgement of my efforts. As we settled into our seats, my father raised his glass in a toast. "To Naomi and her new job," he said, "and to having our little domestic goddess back home where she belongs." The word domestic hit me like a slap. Not photographer, not professional, not accomplished graduate. Domestic. As though my identity and value were inextricably tied to my usefulness in maintaining their household. Dinner proceeded with the usual family dynamics. My mother detailed her latest real estate triumph. My father complained about client demands. Jack talked about a new video game. Amelia scrolled through her phone between bites. No one asked about my work or my day. When it came time for dessert, my mother turned to me expectantly. "Naomi, would you serve the pie and clear the dinner plates?" Something inside me quietly snapped. I remained seated. "Why do not you ask Jack or Amelia to do it?" I asked, my voice surprisingly calm given the trembling I felt inside. The question landed like an unexpected object dropping onto the dinner table. Everyone froze. "Because you are already up," my mother said, though I was clearly still seated. "No, I am not," I replied. "And I have cooked this entire meal, cleaned the house all day, and set this table. I have not seen Jack or Amelia do anything to contribute to this family dinner." An uncomfortable silence filled the room. My grandmother watched with quiet intensity, her hands folded in her lap. "That is just how we divide things," my father finally said, his tone suggesting this explanation should end the discussion. "You are better at this stuff." "I am better at it because I have been doing it since I was 6 years old," I said, still maintaining that unnerving calm. "Jack and Amelia never learned because they were never expected to learn. But we are all adults now. Why am I still the only one responsible for everything?" My mother's face tightened. "You are being too sensitive, Naomi. This is just how families work. Someone has to keep things running." "No, this is how our family works," I corrected her. "And it only works this way because I have allowed it to continue. Do you realize that I work full-time just like you and Dad, but then come home to a second full-time job that my adult siblings never have to think about?" Jack shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "I work too," he muttered defensively. 25 hours a week at the electronics store," I replied. "And yet you contribute 0 hours to household work. How is that fair?" My father's face darkened. "That is enough, Naomi. In this house, we all have our roles. Your mother and I have supported you for years, put you through college, and welcomed you back home. A little gratitude would be appropriate rather than this attitude." The word gratitude ignited something in me. "Gratitude," I repeated. "Should I be grateful that I missed my first photography exhibition in high school because of a dinner party you scheduled last minute? Or grateful that every school break was spent catching up on the housework that fell apart in my absence? Or maybe grateful that since returning home with a degree, I have been treated like an unpaid housekeeper rather than an adult professional?" I turned to my siblings. "And you two, do you ever think about the fact that you have never had to clean a bathroom in this house? Or that dinner appears magically every night without either of you lifting a finger to help?" Amelia looked down at her plate, her expression unreadable. Jack crossed his arms defensively. "That is how Mom and Dad set it up," he said. "Do not blame us." "I am not just blaming you," I clarified. "I am pointing out a pattern that has been harmful to all of us. You two are entering adulthood without basic life skills because this family decided that was somehow my exclusive territory." My mother stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the hardwood floor. "I will not sit here and be lectured about how we have raised our family. If you are so unhappy with the arrangements in this house, perhaps you should find another place to live." The ultimatum hung in the air, intended to end the discussion and bring me back in line. In previous years, it would have worked. I would have apologized, retreated, and continued the pattern to keep peace. But something fundamental had shifted inside me. "You are right," I said quietly, placing my napkin beside my plate and standing. "I should find another place to live. Tonight." The shocked expressions around the table might have been comical in another context. No one had expected me to actually accept the ultimatum. "Do not be ridiculous," my father sputtered. "Your mother did not mean right this minute." "I did not say right now," my mother backpedaled quickly. "I just meant eventually, when you are ready." "I am ready now," I replied, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "I have been ready for years." I walked upstairs to my bedroom while the family sat in stunned silence. Once there, I pulled out my suitcase and began methodically packing essentials: clothes, toiletries, important documents, my camera equipment. The process felt surreal but also deeply right, like finally exhaling after holding my breath for years. My phone buzzed with a text from my grandmother. "Do what you need to do. I am proud of you." Those simple words gave me strength as I heard footsteps approaching my door. My mother entered without knocking, her face a mixture of anger and disbelief. "You cannot be serious," she said. "Where will you even go at this hour?" "Sarah offered me her spare room until I find an apartment," I answered, continuing to pack. "I already texted her. She says I can come tonight." "This is completely unnecessary," my mother insisted. "We can discuss the chore distribution tomorrow when everyone is calmer." The familiar pattern of temporary concessions to maintain the status quo was so transparent now. There would be token efforts for a few days, perhaps Jack would take out the trash once or twice, and then everything would revert to the established norm. "This is not just about chores," I explained, zipping my suitcase. "This is about respect and recognition of my value beyond what I can do for everyone else. I need space to establish who I am outside of this family dynamic." My father appeared in the doorway, his earlier anger now shifting to concern as he realized I was actually leaving. "Naomi, be reasonable. It is almost 9 o'clock. Whatever issues we have can be addressed without this dramatic exit." "There is nothing dramatic about an adult choosing to live independently," I responded, gathering the last of my essential belongings. "I have been planning to move out anyway. This conversation just accelerated my timeline." Jack watched from the hallway, his expression unreadable. Amelia stood behind him, eyes wide with something that looked almost like admiration mixed with fear. As I carried my suitcase and camera bag downstairs, my mother followed, shifting tactics from dismissal to guilt. "What about Sunday dinners? Your grandmother will be so disappointed if you are not here." "Grandma understands," I said, showing her the supportive text message. "And we can still have family gatherings, just not with me as the household staff." My father made one last attempt as I reached the front door. "At least leave a key," he said. "This is still your home." I placed my house key on the entry table, the small metallic sound unexpectedly final. "Thank you for saying that. But I need to make a home that feels like mine. This has not felt like my home for a very long time." With those words, I walked out the door and loaded my car, my hands remarkably steady, despite the emotional earthquake I had just triggered. As I pulled out of the driveway, I caught a glimpse of my family framed in the doorway, their expressions a mixture of disbelief, anger, and perhaps, in Amelia's case, a dawning understanding. The drive to Sarah's apartment across town felt like crossing a threshold between two different lives. Tears finally came as the reality of what I had done hit me, but they were not tears of regret. They were the release of tension held for far too long, the acknowledgement of both loss and liberation happening simultaneously. When I arrived at Sarah's building, she was waiting outside, her familiar face a beacon of support in the uncertainty. She hugged me tightly without asking questions, then helped carry my belongings inside. "The spare room is small," she apologized, showing me the modest space with a futon and dresser. "It is perfect," I replied, meaning it completely. This tiny room represented something my spacious childhood bedroom never had: true independence. That night, lying on an unfamiliar futon in borrowed sheets, I felt a strange mix of terror and peace. I had no idea what would happen next, but for the first time in my life, I had chosen my own path, rather than the one laid out for me by family expectations. Whatever challenges lay ahead would be mine to face on my own terms. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying, but underneath it all was the certainty that I had finally done the right thing for myself. The first week after leaving home passed in a blur of emotions. My phone accumulated missed calls and text messages from my parents ranging from angry accusations to worried inquiries to guilt-inducing reminders of family obligations. I responded only to confirm my safety, but otherwise maintained distance to process my feelings. My mother's texts followed a predictable pattern. Initial anger. "I cannot believe you would embarrass us this way," followed by guilt. "After everything we have done for you," then bargaining. "Just come talk, we can work something out," and finally wounded victimhood. "I guess we just do not matter to you anymore." My father's messages were fewer but similarly manipulative, focusing primarily on how my absence was affecting my mother. Grandma Margaret, true to form, became my steadfast ally. She arrived at Sarah's apartment 3 days after I left home carrying 2 large boxes. "Some more of your things," she explained as I helped her inside. "Your mother would not let me take your photography books, but I managed to grab most of your personal mementos and that quilt we made together." Over tea at Sarah's small kitchen table, my grandmother provided family updates without pressure or judgment. "The house is quite a mess," she said with a hint of satisfaction. "Your mother actually had to look up how to use the washing machine settings for delicates. Jack tried to make pasta and boiled it until it turned to mush." Despite the chaos my departure had created, Grandma reported that Amelia had surprised everyone by stepping up in small ways. She has been watching cooking tutorials on YouTube, made a decent spaghetti sauce yesterday though she used far too much garlic. This unexpected development gave me hope that perhaps my exit might catalyze positive changes for my siblings. Maybe seeing the system collapse would force growth that years of conversation could not achieve. Meanwhile, my professional life flourished without the drain of household responsibilities. My boss Elaine noticed the change almost immediately. "Your editing work has gotten even sharper," she commented during my second week post-move out. "And you seem more present during shoots." After hesitating, I decided to briefly explain my living situation change. Elaine's response surprised me. "I left home at 22 for similar reasons," she shared. "Best decision I ever made. If you need flexible hours for apartment hunting, just let me know. A stable living situation is important for creative work." This unexpected support extended to my schedule as well. Elaine began offering me additional photography assignments for corporate events on weekends, providing much-needed income for my apartment fund. 3 weeks after the dinner confrontation, I found a small one-bedroom apartment within my budget. The building was older and the unit needed fresh paint, but it offered independence at a price I could manage by carefully budgeting my photography assistant salary and weekend gigs. My move-in day was both terrifying and exhilarating. Sarah helped me transport my meager belongings, now supplemented with secondhand furniture finds and kitchen essentials from discount stores. My grandmother contributed a housewarming basket filled with practical items and a check that made me tear up with gratitude. "This is what grandmothers do," she insisted when I tried to refuse. "Help their grandchildren build their lives. I am so proud of you for valuing yourself enough to make this change." As we arranged my few possessions in the apartment, a text arrived from Amelia. "Can I come see your new place?" Her visit later that afternoon marked the first contact with immediate family since my departure. She arrived looking nervous but determined, carrying a small potted plant. "For your window," she explained awkwardly. "It is supposed to be easy to keep alive. I Googled it." As I showed her around my modest apartment, Amelia's expression shifted from uncertainty to something like admiration. "It is really your own space," she observed. "No one can tell you what to do here." Over mugs of tea at my small secondhand dining table, Amelia revealed the state of the household in my absence. "It is kind of a disaster," she admitted. "Mom tried to make Jack do some of your chores, but he just does them terribly on purpose like he always has. Dad actually had to learn how to run the dishwasher last week." She paused, studying her tea. I never realized how much you did until you were not there doing it. Mom has been complaining about being exhausted all the time, but that is how you must have felt for years. This acknowledgement, simple as it was, felt like a validation I had sought for most of my life. Someone in my family finally saw the reality of what had been happening. I have been trying to do more, Amelia continued, a hint of pride in her voice. I learned how to do laundry from YouTube, and I have been cooking a few nights a week. That is great, I encouraged her. Not just for the family, but for yourself. These are skills you will need your whole life. Before leaving, Amelia asked hesitantly, will you come to Sunday dinner sometime, not to cook or clean up? She added quickly. Just to visit. Grandma misses you. I promised to consider it once I felt more established in my new independence. The invitation, while touching, also triggered anxiety about falling back into old patterns. Any reconciliation would need to happen on new terms with clear boundaries. A month after moving out, I received a text from my mother suggesting we meet for coffee. After consulting with Sarah and my therapist, whom I had continued seeing through a telehealth option, I agreed to a brief meeting at a neutral location. The coffee shop encounter was predictably uncomfortable. My mother arrived with a forced smile and immediately launched into small talk about relatives and neighborhood happenings, avoiding any mention of the circumstances of my departure. When I gently steered the conversation toward what had happened, her defenses emerged immediately. I think you misunderstood the family dynamic, she said, stirring her coffee with unnecessary vigor. We never meant to put too much on you. It just naturally evolved that way because you were so capable. That is the problem, I explained as calmly as I could. Responsibilities should not be assigned based on who is naturally good at them. Everyone needs to learn basic life skills regardless of natural inclination. The conversation circled without resolution, my mother unable or unwilling to acknowledge the fundamental inequity that had defined our family structure. When she suggested I come back for Sunday dinner, to smooth things over with your father, I declined politely but firmly. I am not ready for that yet, I told her. I need more time to establish my independence before re-engaging with family gatherings. Her disappointment was evident, but I held my boundary despite the familiar twinge of guilt. Dr. Jenkins had warned me that family systems resist change vigorously, often through well-practiced emotional manipulation. Recognizing these patterns helped me withstand them. The months that followed brought a gradual evolution in my relationship with myself and my family. I discovered simple joys previously unavailable to me, coming home to an apartment that remained exactly as I had left it, cooking only when I wanted to, spending weekends on photography projects, without interruption from family demands. My health improved noticeably. The persistent headaches disappeared. I began sleeping through the night for the first time in years. Friends commented on the positive changes in my appearance and energy levels. Professionally, I continued to excel at the photography studio. Elaine entrusted me with increasingly complex assignments, and my portfolio expanded with quality commercial work. 6 months after moving out, I received a modest but meaningful promotion to junior photographer with a corresponding salary increase. My relationship with my family evolved in fits and starts. Jack remained distant, perhaps uncomfortable with the mirror my actions had held up to his own behavior. My father made awkward attempts at reconciliation, primarily through offers of practical help, like when he insisted on checking my car's oil and tire pressure during a brief visit. My mother oscillated between grudging respect for my independence and attempts to pull me back into caretaking roles. We are having the Johnsons over for dinner next week, she would text. They always loved your roast chicken. Maybe you could come early and help prepare. Each time I politely declined, offering instead to attend as a guest if I was genuinely wanted for my company, rather than my cooking skills. Sometimes these boundaries were accepted gracefully, other times they triggered renewed tension. The most significant family transformation occurred in my relationship with Amelia. Free from the comparative dynamic that had defined our childhood interactions, we began developing a genuine friendship. She visited my apartment regularly, sometimes to seek advice about college applications, other times simply to enjoy sisterhood without the dysfunctional family system surrounding us. One evening, as we shared takeout on my small balcony, Amelia made an observation that demonstrated how far she had come in her understanding. I used to be jealous of how much mom and dad seemed to trust and rely on you, she admitted. I did not realize they were actually taking advantage of you. I am sorry I did not see it sooner. Her apology, offered without prompting, represented the kind of accountability I had never expected from my family. It opened the door to a more authentic relationship than we had ever experienced as children in the same household. 6 months after my abrupt departure became a full year marked by substantial growth and healing. My apartment had become a true home, decorated with my photography and furnishings chosen specifically to suit my taste. My career continued its upward trajectory with a growing reputation in Portland's commercial photography scene. Most importantly, I had established a life defined by my choices rather than others' expectations. The journey toward family reconciliation remained complex and ongoing. After several individual coffee meetings with both parents, I finally agreed to attend a family therapy session, a condition I set for resuming regular family contact. In that first difficult session, my mother finally spoke words I had needed to hear for decades. I realize now that we put adult responsibilities on you from a very young age. That was unfair, and I am sorry for not seeing how it affected you. My father's acknowledgement came more reluctantly, but eventually emerged. I guess I never questioned why my daughters were expected to handle household matters while my son was not. That was wrong of me. These apologies, while imperfect and still lacking full understanding, represented a beginning. They opened space for a new kind of family relationship, one based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. The most profound transformation, however, happened within me. I learned that standing up for myself, while terrifying, did not cause the catastrophic outcomes I had feared. The family did not fall apart without me. Relationships strained by truth ultimately proved stronger than those maintained through self-sacrifice. Most importantly, I discovered my worth existed completely independent of what I could do for others. 1 year and 3 months after that fateful dinner confrontation, I hosted a small gathering in my apartment to celebrate both my promotion to full photographer at the studio and the anniversary of my independence. The modest living space comfortably accommodated my grandmother Sarah, a few close friends from work, and significantly my parents and siblings. My apartment, once sparse and utilitarian, now reflected my personality in every corner. My own photographs hung on walls painted in colors I had chosen. Books filled shelves without risk of being reorganized by someone else. Plants thrived on windowsills in the consistent care I provided. What made this gathering particularly meaningful was that everyone contributed to it. My mother brought a salad she had prepared. My father grilled vegetables on the small portable grill I had set up on my balcony. Jack, still awkward but trying, brought drinks and actually remembered everyone's preferences. Amelia, now a confident cook, contributed homemade bread that she had learned to make from a YouTube channel she followed. As we gathered around my expanded dining table, the contrast with that last family dinner could not have been more pronounced. Conversation flowed naturally, touching on everyone's interests and activities. My photography projects received genuine interest, including from my father, who had previously seen my career as a hobby rather than a profession. After dinner, when it came time to clear dishes, I noticed something remarkable. Everyone simply picked up their own plates and headed to the kitchen. My mother began rinsing dishes while my father loaded the dishwasher, a domestic skill he had apparently mastered in my absence. This simple act, unremarkable in most families, represented a revolution in ours. Later, as my grandmother and I shared a quiet moment on the balcony, she squeezed my hand. "You did more than save yourself," she said, nodding toward the kitchen where my family continued cleaning up together. "You saved them from themselves, too." The journey had not been without pain. There were still occasional slips into old patterns, particularly when holiday stress heightened everyone's tension. My mother sometimes made comments that revealed lingering expectations about my domestic responsibilities. My father occasionally expressed confusion about why women's issues like housework had become such a point of contention. The difference now was that these slips no longer defined our relationship. I had the strength to address them directly, rather than silently accommodating them. More importantly, I had the option to limit contact when boundaries were not respected, a choice that gave me power I had never before experienced in family dynamics. My personal growth extended far beyond family relationships. I developed close friendships based on mutual support rather than my usefulness. I pursued my passion for photography with dedication that had previously been impossible while juggling family demands. I even began dating someone who respected my independence and contributed equally to our shared experiences. Jack's evolution proved the slowest but most revealing about our family's dysfunctional patterns. Initially resentful of the changes my departure forced, he gradually developed basic life skills out of necessity. The first time he proudly showed me a meal he had cooked entirely himself, I recognized it as a small but significant step toward adulthood that our family system had previously denied him. Amelia, by contrast, blossomed rapidly once freed from her assigned role as the baby of the family. She entered college with domestic capabilities and personal responsibility I had not developed until much later. Our conversations evolved from me guiding her through basic tasks to genuine exchanges about career aspirations, relationships, and her growing interest in environmental science. My relationship with my parents transformed into something resembling adult equality, though this transition remained a work in progress. They began to see me as a person with my own life and goals, rather than an extension of their household management system. I learned to separate their generational limitations from intentional harm, allowing space for forgiveness without returning to unhealthy patterns. On this anniversary that also celebrated my professional advancement, I looked around at my family gathered in the home I had created for myself and felt a complex mixture of emotions. There was pride in what I had accomplished, both professionally and personally. There was lingering sadness for the childhood experiences I could never reclaim. Most powerfully, there was a sense of peace that came from aligning my external reality with my internal worth. Standing up for myself that night had been terrifying, but it catalyzed growth not just for me, but for my entire family system. By refusing to continue enabling dysfunctional patterns, I had created space for everyone to develop healthier relationships. The journey remained ongoing with occasional setbacks and continued learning, but the direction was unmistakably forward. As we shared dessert around my table, the conversation turned to Amelia's upcoming summer internship with an environmental nonprofit. The genuine pride in my parents' faces as they listened to her plans reflected a shifting of attention that would have been impossible in our previous family dynamic. "I learned from watching Naomi," Amelia said when our mother asked where her confidence had come from. "She showed me it is possible to choose your own path." That simple acknowledgement crystallized what I had come to understand through my journey. Our greatest power often lies not in silently enduring unfair situations, but in having the courage to challenge them, even when that challenge comes at personal cost. By valuing myself enough to walk away from exploitation disguised as family duty, I had not only reclaimed my own life, but potentially changed the course of generations to follow. The path had not been easy, and there were still difficult days ahead, but I had discovered a fundamental truth that would guide me through whatever challenges emerged. I was worthy of respect, consideration, and love that did not depend on what I could do for others, but simply on who I was as a person. That knowledge, hard-won through painful experience, had become the foundation on which I was building a life of authentic connection, meaningful work, and genuine joy. What about you? Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between family obligations and your own well-being? Looking back, did that choice lead to unexpected growth? Please share your experiences in the comments, and if this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about finding strength through adversity. Thank you for joining me on this journey of healing and growth. Remember, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is prioritize your own well-being, even when others call you too sensitive for standing up for yourself.